Welcome everyone dito sa FYI with yours truly, a voter education program with very good friends dito sa CSP St. Benit Lasal. We're gonna talk to a very special friend of ours to discuss to you bakit sila yung partner natin. Bakit ito yung new home natin for this voter education series. And just to be clear, just because it's voter education doesn't mean hanggang election period lang tayo. We hope to make this a kind of a sustainable voter education program. And of course, I'll be honest, to also complement my other series related to Philippine politics. So on that note, let's get the ball rolling. Thank you so much, Dean, for this collaboration. I feel so privileged.
Thank you, Richard. We're also
Parang naiiyak ka na yata. Parang hindi ka na natuwa to be my partner.
Ang hirap mag-transition from a very serious academician to, a voter education program that is intended to reach out as many youth as possible as well as different stakeholders. So maraming salamat, Richard, for this opportunity to collaborate with you. And of course, this FYI Voters Education Program is organized under the School of Diplomacy and Governance. The School of Diplomacy Governance mission and vision is, number one, is to promote a just and humane society through innovative and inclusive education. So when we talk about inclusive education, it means that we will cater to different students with various backgrounds, such as religious preferences, gender preferences, religious affiliations, social economic status, and for them we are not discriminating. That's why we are very inclusive, no? And as well as innovative education means we believe that education is not really confined in the four corners of classroom. That's why we are into doing activities beyond our colleges. So we normally visit to government institutions, we attend conference, and even we learn from the streets, because that is the mandate of our beloved college, the De La Salle College of St. Benilde. So launching this voters education with you is such a pleasure to do, because number one, it is anchored on our trust right now, which is, it's about time that we have to develop a critical analysis of the wicked problems of our time. Now, we have to do that. And the forefront of who will do that basically are our students. And of course, through election, which is a defining moment at this juncture, it's very important that we develop a sort of, a framework where our voters will have them to choose their candidates, not basically on the personalities, but rather on the programs, platforms, and their possible
or disinformation and budol.
And that is also
or
important thing
even,
to include. Yeah. And we know for a fact how disinformation and misinformation are in the forefront of our electoral news and initiatives.
Din parang masyado kang serious bigla. But I understand, this is the opening act. Just to give a sense of a flavor of what we have here, you're gonna soon also hear from Secretary Ronald Llamas, among other luminaries, our usual friends and all. Because the idea is that we want essentially social sciences, political science, public administration. Ito yung mga siyensya na yan, maging mas relatable, diba? So please, I hope people don't expect that we're gonna give here dry and academic lectures. But we're gonna do that on the side. Trabaho din na, day job namin yan, but this is our other job. But Dean, I wanna ask you, saan galing itong sense of urgency? Because as we speak, as of this taping, it looks like group Hague ang mga Dutertes. It looks like the Vice President has joined or is trying to join her father at The Hague. I mean, these are incredible moments. I mean, people were crying the other night, some out of joy and some, of course, out of because they love Duterte. But many people were crying out of joy. They couldn't believe their eyes. I half-jokingly said Duterte, and then I put an emoji of tornado or typhoon is out of the Philippine area of responsibility. I mean, the idea of Duterte being essentially whisked away directly to an international court seemed like a dream to a lot of people or a nightmare to a lot of people not long ago. But here we are. Does that make this year's midterms elections different? And in that sense, also our voter education approach also should be different, right? May urgency tayo. Something is happening. Big things happening.
Well, if you will notice, sabi nga, it's very defining moment for us, this 2025 election, especially against the onset of what happened with the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte, and at the same time, it will expose a lot of, you know, shall we call, sort of, skeleton in the closet that need to be bring right now and discussed publicly. Kasi tandaan naman natin, no, since 2016, when Duterte came into power, talagang naging norm. For example, yung impunity, naging norm yung attack against religious belief, naging norm yung pag-disregard sa institutional processes and policies. And in the same time, even yung not recognized, for example, yung diversity ng mga tao. So, naging norm yan. So, and for that reason, naging minana natin lahat yan. Until today, may mga residue of this.
That's the Duterte legacy.
The Duterte legacy, na nakakalungkot, na how, for example, we disregard the Catholic institutions or even some religious groups, how we weaponize, for example, yung batas to have weaponized law in favor of the Duterte government at that time. So, I think it's about time that we really have to do some cleansing, in a sense.
But not the Duterte style of cleansing, just to be clear, right?
Cleansing of our moral fibers again. Of course, we nasa Catholic institution kami, alam mo naman eh. Kaya nga kami against sa EJK kasi nga, naniniwala kami sa 10 utos ng Diyos, na do not kill, So importante that we have a good moral handling of what is happening right now. And siguro dagdag ko lang, Richard, hindi lang naman ang issue ngayon ay hindi lang about Duterte and Marcos. Our voters education program is intended really to open a lot of possible safe spaces for our people to come again, to discuss, decent issues, to agree to disagree without attacking the personality. So, yan din kasi yung mga nakikita rin namin dito sa De La Salle Camp State Penal.
Right.
So, we try to do a sort of a reset of what will happen. So, itong election na to somehow is a building block to do a strategic reset, preparing for the 2028 national and local elections, presidential elections as well. So, mas dun kami nakatingin. Hindi lang dito sa usapin na ito, but rather how to prepare our citizen, yung ating mga mamamayan, yung kanilang mga civic duties nung pumili ng tama at labanan ang disinformation and misinformation. So this voter education program is really intended on that direction.
Then that's very important on two levels, I mean, first of all, I think if you look at the previous elections, in many ways, puro silang anti-system vote. I mean, Duterte in 2016 was a very anti-system vote. You could argue even Pinoy was an anti-system vote in a way. And then bringing back the Marcoses was the ultimate anti-system vote, saying we don't want EDSA regime anymore. Thank God we still have our democracy there. It's more or less intact. Of course, medyo bruised, medyo scarred. There's a lot to fight for. That's what I always tell my students. I always tell to our audience. Don't give up on the Philippines because so many people do not have the voice you have, the privilege you have, the platforms you have. So tayo na meron konting platform, may konting boses, may konting influence, let's use it in the right direction. And at the same time, let's make sure na yes, naintindihan ko maraming grievance ang tao. A lot of people are losing confidence, especially younger generation. I would say probably Gen Z even more than us in the millennials. But just to put a caveat, that's why we're gonna have series based on analytics with different experts. Kasi sa pagkaalam ko din, wala tayong exit poll na matino. No offense to some, I don't know, digital, whatever there. Wala tayong matino exit poll from 2022 elections to really understand what is the unique attribute of the Gen Z voters. Because we had that with millennials. Remember, I think people forget, millennials were the decisive vote for Lenny in 2016. It is not true that the young ones didn't know a history. Ironically, or actually interestingly, the young ones who were not during martial law period actually voted more for Lenny than people who should have known better. This is so you have exit polls, numbers that show that. This is 2016. 2022, medyo kapos pa ako sa data, but our hope is as this series goes, this is not just marites lang, or this is not even your typical academic discussion. We want this to be data-driven, evidence-driven, and that's why some of our regular guests we're gonna have here are people who are literally running one of the leading and new and dynamic institutions out there. But speaking of 2028, Dean, I want to get back to you also on this. I think there's always this misunderstanding na pwede mo idala lahat yan sa last minute excitement, di ba? The arc of history will almost automatically bend. It doesn't work that way. The Marcoses worked more than 2 decades to get back where they are.
I agree.
The Dutertes were planting these seeds for a long time, and they have a headway. So as much as we don't want to talk about these two families and their drama, the reality is that they're also a reminder you have to lay down the foundation 3 years, 4 years, even 10 years ahead. So we still have around 3 years or so to prepare for really the big one. And then, I think we had this discussion on separate platforms, right? 2028 could turn out as in 1992 in a sense that it could be a very open field. Who knows, Sara Duterte might not run after all. Who knows, she might get impeached. Who knows, maybe Rafi Tulfo may reconsider running. Maybe runs as a VP for someone else, not as popular. Then that opens up the field, right?
Well, generally naman, if you look at our elections, of course, 1990 is very prominent because you have all these dynamic personalities coming from after the People Power Revolution, formal elections. And of course, succeedingly, may mga 3 or 4 big candidates. But going back to what you have said earlier, if, for example, that Sara will be convicted by the Senate, by the impeachment tribunal, it might open for other candidates na pwedeng aliado rin nila.
Right.
So we're looking perhaps...
Robin Hood Padilla.
Well, sabi nila, they're running for Robin Hood Padilla.
Yeah.
Or, tingnan din natin maigi. If you look at the poll, syempre,
Bongo is doing well.
Si Sara pa rin naman ang number 1 ngayon if you do some polling coming from our friends, But nevertheless, andyan pa rin naman si Lenny, hindi pa rin nadi-discount yung kanyang presence, or si Senator Risa Hontiveros, it could be possible dark horse, in this election. And of course, you have Tulfo, etc. So, ang tanong nga lang, in 3 years' time, can they prepare to be a credible candidate? So, well, it's up to them how these potential candidates or how this our so-called national politicians will prepare to engage our people. What will be their core message? Lalo na ngayon, kung natin maigi, halimbawa, kasi sabi nga natin, dapat talaga suportahan natin yung mga kandidato na talagang magtataguyod ng interest ng bansang Pilipinas. Parang, dapat Team Philippines tayo ngayon
Right.
So we have to reject really our candidates who neither or an iota of their words during for example, when our Philippine Coast Guards were attacked by the Chinese militia. Sino ba itong mga kandidato na hindi man lang yung salita?
May naputulan pa ng daliri. Navy servicemen natin.
Tapos tinaga or initak.
Correct.
So, asan sila? So, I don't know why we continue to support this kind of candidate. So, importante.
Pero sabi nung isang candidate, handa na siya magpakamatay dahil sa West Philippines. Pero as of this taping, wala po tayong information about his whereabouts. I think everyone knows who we are talking about.
Well, hindi naman kailangan magpakamatay. Importante nga lang ay at least may pakita sa taong bayan. Right. How do you really support the cause, at yun din siguro yung maganda rito. What happened also as well is that we now recognize, for example, yung role din ng international institutions vis-a-vis to our domestic, to our government, to our domestic politics. So, isasabi namin na meron talagang relasyon yan, na meron talagang ugnayan yan. Kasi syempre kami, diplomacy and governance kami, our predicate is that governance right now is no longer confined within a national and local level. It is also working at the international or global level. That's why we have global governance.
Right.
And diplomacy as well, right? So, yung diplomacy is a practice of how states relate with other states. So, dapat ito yung mga elections considerations or considered issues that we have to include as well before the 2025 elections. Important, hanggang sa 2028. So, it's really about time to mainstream international issues as part of parcel of our domestic policies. Kasi importante yan Meron kasi ang relasyon. Our compliance, for example, to sustainable development goals.
Right.
Kailangan ini-include din naman sa mga discussion. Kasi that also realize, for example, our programs of actions on our compliance with sustainable development goals. Kung sabi ka ng good
If you're
governance,
looking at
yun.
long-term development goals, I mean, yun nga like there's the drama of politics, literally a lot of drama in politics, pero hindi natin tinatawag. There are these tectonic shifts below us. Climate change is getting worse.
Yep.
There's the artificial general intelligence is coming. It's going to affect a lot of jobs, including our jobs in the
I
academe,
agree, yeah.
in vlogging, and more. A lot are coming. I mean, the Gen Zs I talk to my students, among others, all the graduate school na ako nagtuturo ngayon. But generally, the Gen Zs I get to talk to, they're saying, we're worried. Like, we don't know what's the job market in the 10 years. We don't know if the world is around in the next 10 years. I watch what's happening in the White House, berating Zelensky like that. I don't know. So, I think this is not just your ordinary voter education. We're not here to say, we're here to educate you. We're here to say, naku, marami tayong mga seryosong problema. Pag-usapan natin, ano bang kailangan natin gawin? Ma-afford ba natin na more buduts in Senado? Ma-afford ba natin na more budul sa Malacanang? Di ba? Parang ganun yung linya natin, no?
In the same manner, I think this is also part of our trust in the La Salle Campus and Binil. Yung maganda rin term mo na hindi lang to simpleng voice education because we are here also to collaborate,
Yes.
no, with our voters. Kasi for the longest time, kung tinang maigi, ang nagiging sistema natin very very candidate-centric. Ano yung gustong sabihin ng kandidato, doon tayo. Pero this time around, I think we have to listen also to our voters. So that's why we need to guide our voters as well and to collaborate with them. What do you prepare? Ano bang, kasi kayo yung boboto, ano bang tingin nyo ang nararapat na iboto based on what? Ano ba yung standards? Dahil yan ba ay lumalabas sa TV? Yan ba ay magaling magsayaw? Ito ba yung magaling mag-speech? Ito ba yung kanyang educational background? It's about time to really engage and collaborate. So mas time ko nga yung collaboration kasi that's really our practice here.
Or listening tour, no? I mean, listening tour. I mean, Dean,
yeah, you can do that through listening tour and collaboration. Definitely.
Kasi Dean, alam mo, marami nag-react dun sa isang sinabi ko about Human Development Index here and there. Well, I meant, I mean, the reality is there is an Imperial Manila. And I'm saying this as a Baguio boy. Like, even kami sa Baguio na mayabang, nayayabangan sa mga taga Manila. I'll tell you what, whenever I go to Baguio, because my car's plate numbers are Manila, I notice that, like in John Hay and all ibang thing, and immediately I speak Ilocano to them. And because I don't have the typical features, they immediately go nice. So, the reality is that meron tayong mga divides, fault lines, developmental gaps, deficits. But for me, most important, meron tayong divide in terms of boses. Parating narinig natin yung mga experts, political experts, analysts, dito sa Metro Manila. At sabi nga naman, ba't puro Richard Haydaran? Sino bang Richard Haydaran ng Davao? Sino bang Richard Haydaran? I mean, I don't mean like I'm great. I'm just saying like, I'm sure may mga thought leaders na mas magaling pa sa atin in Baguio, in Cebu, in Iloilo. So, just to give a preview, we are hoping to also have those campus tours.
Yes, that's correct. No, in fact, part of our joint activities is to engage and collaborate with our voters in the coming weeks. No, I think we'll start by the end of March, and then we'll do some campus tours to key cities like General Santos. Mukhang in-invite ka sa mga taga General Santos, no?
I'm more than by the way, I've been to General Santos. I was there during the Tuna Fiesta. It's one of the most amazing things. And by the way, hindi sila kasama doon sa sinabi ko sa HDI. I was referring to ARMM region, but you know, it's CNN International. It's 12 midnight. My 27th interview. I have no time to go province by province. I think people. I hope naman you become. And I'm not from even Manila. I'm from Baguio City. So you know. Yeah. But thank you for giving me a chance. But this is not about me. Yeah, going back.
Yeah.
Ayan na naman tayo.
Nabasa ko kasi isa sa mga estudyante ko nag-comment on that, no? About your comment. So, but definitely, we also wanted to look at, to visit yung Visayas, and Visayas, Luzon, and Mindanao.
Palawan, and of course,
So, we'll do that. And
Palawan, please.
No, we'll do that. We'll do Palawan. We'll do Palawan. So, this joint collaboration between our institutions will really, you know, try to reach as many as possible stakeholders. Not only students, but also perhaps youth, working youth, or even some LGU. I think we'll invite them. But definitely, the voice education will happen in different universities. Para at least yung safe space din naman. We have, and also at the same time that, you know, this is not sponsored by anyone else, but simply
our
initiative
own
of the
little
college.
advocacy.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm very thankful that we have come together. I mean, after all, at the end of the day, we're fellow academics, we're colleagues. I used to teach just across in LaSalle. I hope to hang out more here.
Definitely.
Definitely looking forward to it. Again, this is for transparency purposes. Para lang maintindihan ng tao, wait, why is Richard teaming up with LaSalle? I thought he's teaching in UP Asian Center, or wasn't he in LaSalle? Just to be clear, I mean, we are good friends. We have a lot of respect for each
You'll
other.
be our council of advisor. I mentioned that.
I'll be an elder statesman. I'll be an elder statesman.
Of the school, yeah.
So, I mean, Dean, thank you so much for also giving this opportunity to us, to our audience, because I hope
Thank
the
you.
audience I bring into this conversation could also pitch in, because, of course, analytically speaking, I could see a majority of my followers are either based in the US or Metro Manila, among other things. Although Davao City is number 4, by the way, analytics speaking. So, thank you sa mga taga Davao. Mga taga Baguio naman, baka naman. So we want to build, on my part at least, little part, we want to build more conversation. In fact, I want to call this a listening tour podcast, really, right? This is fundamentally about a dialogue and conversation with voters and the younger generation, more than us just giving lectures. I know it's hard for people to believe that kasi sobrang madaldal natin, pero dahil lang na-stress ako sa traffic, so I tend to overcompensate. But we'll keep this short now because we have a lot of episodes coming in, one with Secretary Llamas, with Justice Carpio, among other luminaries we have here. But also, we are trying to put together a core group of like-minded academics. But importantly, not only academics, although it's great to be an academic.
I must prepare for pracademics, practitioners and academics.
Exactly. Okay, let's go Gramsci. Praxis, you know, we're the praxis people. We're people who are not shy to get our discussions into the public sphere and deal with the government. As I always say, progressives, academics, we should not fear power. We should engage with power, we should tame power, and we should channel power in the purpose of nation building and also for a better future for the Filipino people. So maraming salamat. Thank you so much, guys, for the continued support for us, and thank you so much, Dean, for this fabulous partnership. And God willing, inshallah, tuloy-tuloy itong support na to. And I'll try to be also like Sara Duterte. Shukran. Yeah, thank you so much for this fantastic moment we have had together. And really looking forward also to more conversation with experts from Mindanao, because I've had great time in different cities, from Davao to Jensan. I was in Marawi also not long ago. Maraming mga difficult circumstances we have in Mindanao, but also a lot of beauty, a lot of great places we want to visit, and a lot of amazing people we want to meet. So salamat also, Dean, for creating the infrastructure. Kasi sino man lang ako, I'm just a little blogger, a minor blogger. That's all I am. So kaya mahalaga itong ginagawa natin. Kaya salamat, and join us soon for more episodes. FYI, a voter education program with our great friends here in CSP LaSalle.